Okay, now we are doing chapter 5 of HTMX, and then if we just go through, let me just make this big. If we just go through our HTML, as you can see here, we have our body, and then inside of our body we have a form inside of this div with the class of container, and then in our form we have this first div right here, which has a label and an input, and then the label is email address, and then the input is of type email, class form control for bootstrap, the name is email, and then it's using HTMX hx post attribute to send a post request to the email route here /email. And then after that we have a secondary div which has another label and an input, and this is for password, right? But we're not gonna be dealing with that one much, it just exists. And then we're gonna have a button of type submit, right? And inside it says submit, and it also doesn't do much in terms of functionality. Our main focus is gonna be this div right here. And then if we go to server.js, as you can see, we have our post handler here, and then we take the route that we're sending a post request to /email. We have an anonymous function here which has request and responses parameters. We create our first variable, which is submitted email, and that is basically anything that's inputted by the user into the email input here, this input here, right? We store that in the submitted email variable, and then we have another variable which is email regex, and this is just regex that just checks the format of our email to make sure that it meets basically the standard format for an email. So it must be any alphanumeric character or symbol plus an @ sign, and then any alphanumeric character, and then it has to have a dot, and basically that's just the format that we're looking for to confirm that the email is in the right, it's valid. And then we have a if statement here that checks the email regex to see if what we have in our submitted email, which is what the user inputted, does it match with the regex that we provided? Does it have a valid format? If it does, we return this, and we send a response to our HTML, and then we basically, because if you go to our HTML, we have this outer HTML hx swap here. We just basically swap out this div and we put in this div, which is exactly the same thing except we added a value now, which is whatever the user put there, so it won't disappear. When you type something, it will still remain there, but now we're going to add another div that tells you whether the email is valid or not. So if this if statement right here is true, if the email regex, the submitted email matches with the regex we provided, then it's going to create a new div that is an alert, a green alert that says the email is valid. Or else, if it's not true, if the email that you inputted in the input box does not match the regex, we are going to return a response that is sent to our index.html, and it's going to swap out the div with this, which is exactly the same thing, except now it has the value of submitted email once again. And then after that we add this extra div here, which will tell you to enter a valid email address, which will also be a alert. So what that looks like is that, as you can see here, we have our two input boxes. Sorry, my thing is still loading. Yes, we have our two input boxes. You can see I can type a invalid email format. As you can see, that div is added here, right? And then if I just change it to make it correct, then the first if statement is triggered, and then it gives us this email is valid alert. So that's all for chapter 5. Any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.